Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you for joining me today at this Express webinar session. So for today, we're going to be looking at custom chart widgets, which is one of our latest features, which is available on Teamhood. For today's session, I prepared 6 examples for us to go through. And I'll be showing you those 6 examples, and it will take us around 10 to 15 minutes to go through them. But before that, I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Gabrielle, and I'm your Teamhood coach. So my job today is to introduce you to the custom chart widgets, and yours is to listen and hopefully get inspired and start utilizing the custom chart widgets yourself. Don't forget that at the end of our session, I will be saving some time for us for a quick Q&A session. So you can leave your questions in the Q&A box below. So we can dive right into the examples that I wanted to showcase to you. But before that, I would like to show you where you can find the custom chart widgets. So you can see my screen right now that I'm sharing. You see the plus icon here. Then you go on to create a report. Then you choose the dashboard report, you add it to your workspace, and you can see that the dashboard report has been added. So I'm gonna go back to the dashboard report that I added earlier, and you can see the widgets that I prepared for the webinar today. So let's go to those examples right away. So the first one, the first example that I prepared, you can see right away, it's a donut chart. So let's go ahead and start creating it from scratch, just so you know how it works. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go on, add a new widget. Then I will choose the custom chart. Then, as you saw earlier, I'm gonna choose the donut chart. Then for the title, let's do a total logged time in status. Then we are gonna filter out not relevant boards for us. So I'm gonna choose boards where I have all of my projects. So client A project work, client B project work, and all of the mini projects. Then for the x-axis, I'll do status type, just so it's a little easier to read the graph this way. So you can see it becomes less cluttered. And for the y-axis, I'll do total log time. Here you go. And now I'll also add the child items, just so they are visible there as well. At the bottom here, you can adjust how this widget is gonna look. So you can see I can make changes, and you see how the chart looks a little different. Say now that I'm happy how this chart looks, I can go on and add it to this widget to the dashboard report. But for now, I already have this report as you saw, this chart as you saw in the dashboard report. So I'm gonna close the screen here. So you can see this donut chart right here. So what type of information I can get out of this graph? So you can see here that 18 hours of work has been logged, and these hours has already, this items and this work has already been completed. However, we see that 7.5 hours of work is still in progress. So in case you bill your clients at the end of every month, perhaps you want to push forward these items and this work, just so you are able to invoice your clients at the end of the month. So that would be the first example that I prepared. Moving on to the second one, this will be relevant to managers, team leaders, especially the ones who manage customer support teams. So what you can see here, you can see 2 separate bar charts. So now I won't show you how to create these bar charts from scratch, because I would follow exactly the same steps, but I'll show you the settings. So top right corner, you see the settings icon. You see the settings, how this graph has been set up. So you can either now take a screenshot of the settings, or alternatively, we'll be sharing the webinar recording, just so if you want to come down and sit down and watch the webinar, and then later on create the charts yourself. Then what I want to emphasize with this specific chart is that for the x-axis, you should choose the created on instead of completed on. So for the first one, for the x-axis, we pick created on, and for the next graph, we choose the completed on. This way, we will be able to compare how many tickets come in every week and how many tickets get closed every week. So now, what kind of information do we see, and what can we get out of these two bar charts? So we see that last week 6 tickets came in and 2 got closed, whereas this week 3 tickets came in and 3 got closed. So of course the sample size is very tiny, but we can still start reading this these bar charts. So some observations that I could make is that we see that more tickets came in than got closed last week. So maybe it's because we don't have enough of manpower. Perhaps we could consider hiring a new customer support agent. Another observation that I could make is that maybe you want to go over your processes and see maybe you can introduce some changes to your processes just so you're able to close tickets a little faster. So just a couple of observations that I can make right away from this chart, but of course there could be many other. Moving on to the next example. You see this scatter plot chart, which is brand new, really fresh. We just introduced it this week. So if I go on to the settings of this chart here, so you see that for the x-axis, I picked estimation, and for the y-axis, I picked total log time. Now, what kind of information can we get out of this is that, for example, here we see, if we hover over on this circle here, we see that we estimated this task to take around 1 hour, and we did indeed logged 1 hour of work. So it means that we are good with our estimations. We don't spend too much time working on specific items. However, if we hover on this circle here, we see that we estimated the task to take 8 hours, but it took us 9 hours. So some observations that I could make is that maybe we underestimate the time it takes to complete a specific task, or perhaps you want to go over your processes, and tasks that should take a little less time to do actually take longer, and you want to see, maybe you want to improve your existing processes. So again, just a couple of observations here. The next graph that you can see here is item distribution across boards. So again, let's go to the settings of this graph here. So you can see how this has been set up. So what's important here, what I wanted to emphasize is that you should enable stacking here. So this has been enabled because otherwise it becomes a little bit more difficult to read this graph without stacking enabled. So I recommend that. Then what kind of information we can get out of this specific graph is that you can right away see how many items has already been completed and how many items are still in progress from specific client project work. So we see client A, with projects from client A, we're doing quite well. However, with client B and mini projects, we still have quite much work left to do. So this is quite effective because you won't have to go to a separate board to see the status of different project work. So yeah. Moving on to the next graph, which looks very similar to the one before. It's just on the x-axis, we have assignees. And from this graph, what information can you get out? You can see that Gabrielle has the highest number of items assigned to her. However, and Andrew and John have less. However, we do see that Gabrielle, she has most of her items already completed. Only a couple, 4 of them are still in progress or new. So even though she has the highest number of items assigned to her, we can still assign her new project work because she's nearly finished. Whereas Andrew and John, maybe they could benefit from like some extra time to be given to finish up their existing items and work. Moving on to the one final example. So this is gonna look a little different. So here, I'm sure most of you have started to utilizing custom fields. So custom fields, as you know, could be utilized for multiple different things. So for project ID, for customer name, here at TeamCode, we have this custom field called impact. So I'm gonna use this impact custom field for grouping items. So how do we do this? Again, I go to the settings of this specific graph here. So what I do for the y-axis, you can see that I chose item count, and for grouping, I indeed chose impact. So here you go. And then one final thing is, how do we read, or what kind of information can we get out of the specific graph? So as you most probably know, it's important that you progress forward with high impact carrying tasks, not only the low priority ones. So from this graph, you can see that the high impact tasks are here, and the purple ones. So you can see that we not only complete the low priority tasks, but high level items, just so we are able to finish our projects on time. That would be it for the examples that I wanted to showcase. And now I wanted to see, I hope you've been active, and I want to see the Q&A box if you have any questions that you have submitted. Okay, I see one question that is still open. That is from Jeremy. So Jeremy is asking, how many widgets can I add to the dashboard? Are there any limitations? Let me go back. Let me move back. Okay, so Jeremy, to answer your question, there are no limitations. You can add as many widgets as you like. So for example, in my case, I added 6 widgets, but you can also add 10 to 20, and there are no limitations. And one more thing, when you are adding a widget, there are multiple types of widgets that you can add. So you can choose and mix and match. Let's go back to our Q&A box. Let's see if there are any more questions. I hope this was helpful, Jeremy. I don't see any more questions. So if anything comes up after our session, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we will also be sharing the recording of the webinar. Just so you're able to, again, see the settings of the different examples that I show you and start setting up the charts yourselves. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time.